The massive human dreadnought USS Dominion dropped out of hyperspace with a thunderous roar that shook the very fabric of space around the Kepler 442 system. The ship was enormous, stretching nearly 2 kilometers from bow to stern, its dark hull scarred and battle-tested from countless engagements across the Outer Rim territories. Commander Jake Mitchell stood tall on the bridge, his weathered face illuminated by the blue glow of tactical displays that showed enemy positions scattered around the planet below. Jake had seen more battles than most men his age should have survived. His brown hair was streaked with premature gray, and his eyes held the steady gaze of someone who had made life-and-death decisions in the cold vacuum of space. Today felt different, though, heavier somehow, as if the universe itself was holding its breath for what was about to unfold. The bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency around him. Admiral Lisa Carter sat in the command chair, her fingers drumming against the armrest as she studied the tactical readouts. She was a small woman with sharp features and steel-gray hair pulled back in a tight bun, but her presence commanded respect from every person on the ship. Lisa had climbed through the ranks during humanity's first encounters with alien civilizations, and she had never lost a battle. Dr. Nathan Brooks hunched over his science station, his thick glasses reflecting the swirling data streams as he analyzed the alien technology signatures. Nathan was young for a chief science officer, barely 35, but his mind worked faster than the ship's computers when it came to understanding how alien systems functioned. His fingers flew across the controls as he pulled up energy readings. From the enemy fleet, Communications Officer Amy Johnson turned in her seat, her blonde hair catching the light as she spoke. "Admiral, we're receiving transmissions from the colony on Kepler 442b. They're requesting immediate assistance. The Zephyrians have been bombarding their shield generators for the past 6 hours." Amy's voice remained steady despite the gravity of the situation. She had been handling communications for the Dominion for 3 years, and she had learned to keep her emotions in check even when relaying the most desperate pleas for help. Her job was to make sure the command crew heard everything they needed. "To know nothing more, nothing less," Lisa nodded grimly. "Put it through the main speakers, Amy." The bridge filled with the crackling voice of Colony Director Ben Harris. Static made his words hard to understand, but the fear in his tone was clear. "This is New Eden Colony to any human vessels in the area. We are under attack by 12 Zephyrian cruisers. Our shields are failing and we have civilians who need evacuation. Please respond. We don't have much time left." Commander Mitchell moved to the tactical display, where red dots showed the positions of the alien ships. The Zephyrians had arranged themselves in a perfect formation around the planet, their sleek vessels gleaming silver against the darkness of space. Each ship was roughly half the size of the Dominion, but they moved with the fluid grace of predators, circling wounded prey. 12 ships, Jake said quietly, more to himself than to anyone else. "They're confident." Chief Engineer Ryan Cooper's voice crackled over the comm system from the engine room. "Admiral, I'm reading massive energy buildups from the alien fleet. They're charging their main weapons for another bombardment run." Ryan had been working on the Dominion's engines since the ship was first commissioned. His hands were permanently stained with coolant fluid, and his jumpsuit was covered in patches from years of emergency repairs. But there wasn't an engineer in the human fleet who understood fusion reactors better than Ryan Cooper. Dr. Brooks looked up from his console, his young face serious. "Admiral, I'm detecting something interesting about their weapon signatures. The Zephyrians are using plasma-based energy systems, very similar to the ones we encountered at the Vega incident last year." Lisa's eyes sharpened. The Vega incident had been humanity's first real taste of advanced alien warfare, and the lessons learned there had been incorporated into every human warship since. "Are you saying we have tactical data on their weapons?" "More than that," Nathan replied, his fingers still dancing across his controls. "I believe I can predict their firing patterns and suggest optimal countermeasures." "Lieutenant Commander," Sam Davis called out from the flight control station. "Admiral, fighter squadrons are ready for launch on your command. All pilots are standing by." Sam was a veteran pilot himself, though he now commanded others rather than flying solo missions. His dark skin was marked with the faint scars that came from emergency ejections and crash landings, but his voice carried the absolute confidence of someone who had trained the best fighter pilots in the human fleet, the Dominion's AI system, a complex network of quantum processors developed by Dr. Brooks and his team, began running calculations at impossible speeds. The artificial intelligence had been designed to process battlefield information and provide tactical recommendations, but it had evolved beyond its original programming. Now it seemed to anticipate what the crew needed before they even asked. Captain Helen Rodriguez prepared her Marine assault teams 3 decks below the bridge. Helen was built like a tank, with broad shoulders and arms that could crush most aliens in hand-to-hand combat. Her Marines were the best ground fighters humanity had ever produced, and they were eager to show the Zephyrians what happened when you threatened human civilians. Medical Officer Dr. Paul Martinez worked quietly in the sickbay, preparing for the casualties that would inevitably come. Paul had gentle hands and a soft voice, but he had seen enough combat wounds to know that the next few hours would test. Every skill he had learned in medical school got the tension on the bridge was thick. Enough to cut with a knife as Admiral Carter made her decision. Jake, bring us into attack position. Amy, open a channel to the Zephyrian fleet. It's time to give them a chance to do this the easy way. Commander Mitchell's hands moved across his controls, and the massive dreadnought began its approach toward the enemy formation. The USS Dominion was about to make first contact with the Zephyrian Empire, and the galaxy would never be the same. The communication channel crackled to life as Admiral Lisa Carter's voice cut through the static of interstellar space. Her words were clear and precise as she addressed the Zephyrian fleet commander directly. This is Admiral Carter of the United Earth Navy vessel Dominion. You are attacking a human colony under the protection of Earth Command. Withdraw your forces immediately or face the consequences. The response came quickly, filled with the arrogant tone that had made the Zephyrian Empire so many enemies across the galaxy. The alien voice was translated by the ship's universal communication system, but the contempt was clear even through the electronic rendering. Primitive mammals from the third planet dare to threaten the mighty Zephyrian Empire? Your crude vessel is outnumbered 12 to 1. Surrender now, and we may allow your crew to serve as slaves in our mining operations. Commander Jake Mitchell watched the tactical display as the enemy ships began to spread out in what appeared to be an attack formation. The Zephyrian cruisers moved with fluid precision, their silver hulls reflecting the light from the system's twin stars. Each vessel was roughly 300 meters long, built for speed and equipped with the plasma weapons that had made the Zephyrian Empire a feared force throughout this sector of the galaxy. Dr. Nathan Brooks studied the alien ships. From his science station, his young face creased with concentration as he analyzed their energy signatures. Admiral, I'm detecting massive power buildups in their weapon systems. They're preparing to fire on both us and the colony simultaneously. Amy Johnson turned from her communications console, her blonde hair catching the bridge lights as she spoke. I'm intercepting their internal communications, Admiral. They're discussing our ship's design and laughing about what they call our primitive construction methods. Lisa Carter's jaw tightened as she listened to the alien mockery. The Zephyrians had made the same mistake that so many other species had made when they first encountered humanity. They looked at human technology and saw crude metal and simple designs, never realizing that humans had learned to make every system redundant, every component replaceable, and every weapon devastatingly effective. Chief Engineer Ryan Cooper's voice echoed through the bridge from the engine room far below. Admiral, I'm pushing the fusion reactors to 120% capacity. The gravitational disruptor is charging, but I need at least 10 more minutes to reach full power. The gravitational disruptor was humanity's newest weapon, developed from salvaged alien technology and human engineering brilliance. It created artificial gravity wells that could tear apart the molecular structure of any target, but it required enormous amounts of energy to function properly. Ryan had been working on the system for months, fine-tuning every component to ensure it would work when humanity needed it most. Lieutenant. Commander Sam Davis coordinated with his fighter squadrons from the flight control station. All wings. Report ready for launch, Admiral. The pilots are requesting permission to engage the enemy fighters. Sam's dark eyes were focused on the tactical display showing dozens of small red dots emerging from the Zephyrian cruisers. The alien fighters were fast and maneuverable, but they had never faced human pilots who had been trained to think creatively and adapt to any situation. Human fighter tactics emphasized flexibility over rigid formations, and that difference had won battles across the Outer Rim. The ship's AI system processed thousands of calculations per second, analyzing the enemy formation and suggesting optimal attack vectors. The artificial intelligence had been designed to work alongside human intuition rather than replace it, providing data and analysis while leaving the crucial decisions to the crew. Dr. Brooks had programmed the system to learn from each engagement, constantly improving its tactical recommendations. Captain Helen Rodriguez checked in from the Marine deck, her voice carrying the confidence of someone who had never lost a ground engagement. Admiral, my teams are ready for boarding actions if needed. We've studied Zephyrian ship layouts, and we know their weak points. Helen's Marines were equipped with powered armor that could withstand the vacuum of space and most alien weapons. Each soldier carried weapons designed specifically for fighting in the confined spaces of enemy ships, and they had trained for months in mock-ups of Zephyrian vessel interiors. The Marines were eager to show the aliens what happened when you threatened human civilians. Dr. Paul Martinez worked quietly in the medical bay, preparing surgical equipment and organizing medical supplies. Paul knew that the next few hours would likely bring wounded crew members to his door, and he was determined to save every life possible. His gentle hands moved with practiced efficiency as he set up emergency treatment stations throughout the ship. The Zephyrian fleet commander's voice returned to the communication channel, now carrying a note of impatience. You have 30 seconds to surrender, humans. After that, we will destroy your ship and continue our bombardment of the colony. Your people will learn that resistance to the Zephyrian Empire is futile. Admiral Carter stood slowly from her command chair, her steel gray hair catching the light as she moved to the center of the bridge. Her voice was calm and steady as she gave her response to the alien ultimatum. This is Admiral Carter's final warning to the Zephyrian Empire. Release the colony and withdraw from human space immediately. You have 10 seconds to comply. The alien laughter that came through the speakers was filled with cruel amusement. Foolish mammals. You will regret your arrogance. Lisa turned to Commander Mitchell, her eyes hard as steel. Jake, are all systems ready? Mitchell nodded, his weathered face grim with determination. All weapons charged and ready, Admiral. The crew is at battle stations. Admiral Carter's voice carried across the bridge with absolute authority. Then let's show these aliens what happens when they threaten humanity. All ships, this is Admiral Carter. You are authorized to engage with extreme prejudice. The USS Dominion's gravitational disruptor fired with a sound that seemed to tear through the fabric of space itself. The massive weapon created an artificial gravity well that reached across the void toward the Zephyrian flagship, a vessel nearly 3 times the size of any other ship in the alien fleet. Commander Jake Mitchell watched from the bridge as the invisible force struck the enemy dreadnought and began to pull apart its molecular structure at the atomic level. The Zephyrian flagship simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there, a massive silver vessel bristling with weapons and armor, and the next moment there was nothing but empty space and scattered particles that glowed briefly before fading into darkness. The gravitational disruptor had compressed the entire ship into a point smaller than a grain of sand, then released it back into the void as harmless cosmic dust. Admiral Lisa Carter stood at the center of the bridge, her steel-gray eyes fixed on the tactical display as 11 remaining enemy ships tried to process what they had just witnessed. The silence from the Zephyrian fleet lasted exactly 4.7 seconds before their communications channels erupted with panicked voices speaking in their native language. Dr. Nathan Brooks looked up from his science station, his young face pale but determined. Admiral, the energy readings from the remaining ships show massive power fluctuations. They're trying to charge their weapons, but their crews are clearly in shock. Amy Johnson turned from her communications console, her blonde hair framing her face as she spoke. I'm intercepting their transmissions, Admiral. They're asking each other what kind of weapon could destroy a dreadnought that completely. Some of them are suggesting immediate retreat. The remaining Zephyrian ships began to move, but their formation was broken and confused. Lieutenant Commander. Sam Davis launched the first wave of human fighters, and the small craft streaked toward the enemy with deadly purpose. The human pilots flew in loose formations that constantly shifted and adapted, making it impossible for the alien gunners to predict their movements. Fighter pilot Jake Stone rolled his craft beneath the firing arc of a Zephyrian cruiser, his voice crackling over the comm system. This is Stone to all fighters. These aliens fly like they're following a textbook. Let's show them what happens when you throw the book away. The human fighters attacked in coordinated groups that seemed random to the alien commanders but followed patterns that had been perfected through years of combat against various enemy species. Each pilot made split-second decisions based on their training and instincts, creating a fluid battle style that confused and overwhelmed the rigid Zephyrian formations. Chief Engineer Ryan Cooper's voice echoed through the bridge from the engine room. Admiral, all systems are running at peak efficiency. The gravitational disruptor is recharging and I can have it ready for another shot in 6 minutes. Ryan had been monitoring every system on the ship during the battle, making constant adjustments to ensure that the Dominion's weapons and shields operated at maximum capacity. His hands flew across the control panels as he rerouted power from non-essential systems to the weapons array. Chief Tactical Officer Karen Lewis coordinated the ship's defensive systems as bright blue plasma bolts streaked toward the Dominion from the remaining Zephyrian vessels. The alien weapons struck the human ship's shields with tremendous force, creating brilliant flashes of light that lit up the darkness of space. Corinne's fingers moved across her controls with practiced precision, adjusting shield frequencies and power distribution to absorb the incoming fire. Shields holding at 85%, Admiral. The alien plasma weapons are powerful, but they're not designed to penetrate our neutron star armor. The Dominion's hull had been forged from materials harvested from collapsed neutron stars, making it nearly indestructible by conventional weapons. The armor could absorb energy blasts that would vaporize normal metal, and it had been tested against every known type of alien weapon in the galaxy. Dr. Brooks continued to monitor the battle from his science station, recording every detail of the alien technology and tactics. His data would be transmitted to Earth Command immediately after the battle, adding to humanity's growing knowledge of galactic threats and opportunities. 3. Zephyrian cruisers broke from their formation and attempted to flee toward the edge of the star system, but Commander Mitchell had anticipated this move. Human destroyer squadrons had been waiting at every hyperspace exit point, their weapons trained on the escape routes. Captain Helen Rodriguez's voice came over the comm system from the Marine deck. Admiral, boarding teams are ready if any of the enemy ships try to surrender. My Marines are equipped for zero-gravity combat and hostile environment operations. Helen's troops were eager to show the aliens what human ground forces could accomplish, but the Zephyrians seemed determined to fight to the death rather than face the humiliation of surrender to a species they had considered inferior. The battle continued for another 20 minutes as the remaining alien ships tried desperately to inflict damage on the human dreadnought. Their plasma weapons created spectacular light shows as they struck the Dominion's shields, but the human vessel absorbed the punishment and continued its relentless advance. Medical Officer Dr. Paul Martinez worked in the sickbay, treating the few crew members who had been injured by console explosions and system overloads. Paul's gentle hands moved with practiced skill as he stabilized patients and prepared for more serious casualties. The final Zephyrian cruiser exploded in a brilliant fireball as human fighters overwhelmed its defenses. The alien crew had chosen to detonate their own reactor rather than surrender, Creating a flash of light that could be seen from the planet's surface, Admiral Carter surveyed the tactical display, which now showed only debris where the enemy fleet had been. All stop, secure from battle stations. Amy, open a channel to the colony. The voice of Colony Director Ben Harris came through the speakers, filled with relief and amazement. Admiral Carter, this is New Eden Colony. We witnessed the entire battle from our observation deck. How did you destroy an entire fleet so quickly? Lisa smiled grimly as she looked at the empty space where 12 enemy ships had been just minutes before. We showed them what happens when you threaten human civilians, Director. The galaxy is about to learn a very important lesson. The news of the USS Dominion's victory spread through the galactic communication networks faster than any ship could travel. Within hours of the battle, quantum transmissions carried the impossible story to every corner of known space. The Zephyrian Empire, feared by dozens of species for their ruthless military campaigns, had been completely destroyed by a single human warship in less than 6 hours. Ambassador Tony Clark sat in his office at the Galactic Council headquarters on Nexus Prime, watching as his communication console lit up with incoming messages from species that had never bothered to speak with humanity before. Tony was a tall man with graying hair and the diplomatic skills that had made him Earth's most successful representative in galactic politics. His calm demeanor had served him well during years of being ignored or dismissed by alien governments. The first message came from the Andromedan Trade Federation, a powerful commercial alliance that controlled shipping routes throughout the outer spiral arms. Their representative, who had refused to meet with Tony for 3 years, was now offering exclusive mining rights to rare mineral deposits in exchange for human protection of their trade vessels. The second message arrived from the Centauri Republic, a collection of star systems that had maintained strict neutrality in all galactic conflicts. Their ambassador was proposing a mutual defense pact that would have been unthinkable just days earlier. The message was formal and polite, but Tony could read the fear between the lines. Intelligence Officer Rachel Morgan worked from her secure facility deep beneath the embassy, analyzing the flood of intercepted communications that poured in from across the galaxy. Rachel was a small woman with sharp eyes and the ability to find patterns in seemingly random data. Her job was to understand what other species were thinking, and right now they were all thinking about humanity. The communications Rachel intercepted painted a picture of widespread panic among galactic governments. The hegemony of Vega was recalling their entire fleet to defend their homeworld. The Crystalline Collective was discussing whether to offer tribute to humanity in exchange for protection. Even the ancient ethereal conclave, who had considered themselves above such concerns, were debating emergency measures. Fleet Admiral Jennifer Walsh received reports from human exploration ships throughout the galaxy, and every report told the same story. Alien vessels that had previously been aggressive or territorial were now actively avoiding contact with human ships. Trade routes that had been closed to human merchants were suddenly open. Systems that had been off-limits were now sending welcoming messages. Captain Derek Stone commanded the USS Vengeance, one of 12 human dreadnoughts that had been deployed to patrol the expanding human frontier. Derek was a veteran officer with dark hair and the steady nerves that came from years of deep space operations. His mission reports described alien fleets changing course the moment they detected human energy signatures. The psychological impact of the Dominion's victory was becoming clear as more reports reached Earth Command. Dr. Susan Wright, humanities leading expert on alien psychology, studied the data from her research facility on Luna. Susan was a brilliant woman who had spent her career trying to understand how different species thought and reacted to threats. Susan's analysis revealed that most galactic civilizations had evolved in stable hierarchies where conflict was ritualized and limited. The concept of total warfare, where an entire enemy fleet could be destroyed without mercy, was foreign to species that had learned to surrender when facing superior force. Humanity's willingness to completely annihilate their enemies had shocked the galaxy into submission. The economic implications were staggering. Commodore Beth Collins, who commanded the human merchant marine, reported that alien trade routes were being abandoned as entire fleets diverted around human space. Mining operations that had been contested for decades were suddenly available as alien. Corporations fled rather than risk confrontation with human forces. Senator Alex Turner addressed the Earth Assembly from his office in Geneva, his words broadcast to human colonies across dozens of star systems. Alex was a powerful speaker who had long advocated for human expansion into the galaxy. His message was clear: humanity's time had come, and the galaxy would bow to human will. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session to discuss what they carefully called recent developments in interstellar relations. The ancient species that had dominated galactic politics for millennia found themselves facing a new reality. The young race from the third planet of an unremarkable star system had suddenly become the most feared military force in known space. The session was conducted in hushed tones as representatives from hundreds of species tried to understand what had happened. The Zephyrian Empire had been one of the strongest military powers in the galaxy, with advanced technology and centuries of combat experience. Their complete destruction by a single human ship had shattered every assumption about the balance of power. Ambassador Clark attended the emergency session as Earth's representative, and for the first time in his career, every other delegate listened carefully to his words. Species that had previously demanded tribute from human colonies were now offering gifts. Governments that had closed their borders to human ships were now begging for trade agreements. The fear in the council chamber was almost tangible as alien representatives discussed the implications of humanity's demonstration. Some species called for immediate diplomatic contact with Earth. Others suggested offering tribute in exchange for protection. A few brave voices suggested forming an alliance against the human threat, but they were quickly silenced by more cautious minds. Intelligence reports confirmed that several major alien governments were already drafting surrender documents, just in case humanity decided to expand their operations. The speed with which the galaxy had accepted human dominance was unprecedented in recorded history. As the emergency session continued, it became clear that the balance of power in the galaxy had shifted permanently. The age of ancient empires and traditional hierarchies was ending, and the age of human dominance was beginning. The USS Dominion had fired a single shot that echoed across the stars, and the galaxy was still trembling from the impact. The destruction of the Zephyrian fleet created a cascade of political changes that swept across the galaxy like a tidal wave. Within weeks of the battle, governments that had existed for thousands of years were restructuring their entire foreign policies around the new reality of human dominance. The hegemony of Vega, humanity's closest galactic neighbors, sent an urgent diplomatic mission to Earth, carrying gifts of rare metals and a formal request for a non-aggression pact. The vegan ambassador trembled during the negotiations, his insectoid features twitching with barely controlled fear as he offered tribute in exchange for assurance that human expansion would not target his homeworld. Ambassador Tony Clark conducted the talks with professional courtesy, but he could see the terror in the aliens' compound eyes as they discussed the terms of what amounted to surrender. Captain Derek Stone commanded the USS Vengeance as it patrolled the expanding human frontier, and his daily reports painted a picture of a galaxy in full retreat. Derek was a seasoned officer with salt and pepper hair and the confident bearing of someone who had never lost a battle. His ship was one of 12 human dreadnoughts now spread across the galactic spiral arms, each one serving as both protector and enforcer of human interests. The alien fleets that Derek encountered had completely changed their behavior patterns. Ships that had previously challenged human vessels now fled the moment they detected human energy signatures. Entire star systems that had been contested territories were being abandoned as alien governments recalled their forces to defend their homeworlds. The galaxy had learned that challenging humanity was a fatal mistake. Dr. Susan Wright continued her analysis of alien psychology from her research facility on Luna, and her findings revealed the depth of the terror that gripped galactic civilization. Susan was a brilliant woman with auburn hair and the analytical mind that had made her the leading expert on xenopsychology in human space. Her research showed that most alien species had never encountered a race willing to fight with such complete ruthlessness. The concept of total warfare was alien to most galactic civilizations, which had evolved from species that lived in stable social hierarchies. When faced with superior force, these species had learned to submit rather than face extinction. The idea that humans would completely destroy an enemy fleet rather than accept surrender violated every assumption about civilized behavior. Senator Alex Turner delivered a speech to the Earth Assembly that was broadcast across human space, his words reaching colonists on dozens of worlds. Alex was a charismatic leader with graying temples and the political instincts that had made him one of the most powerful voices in human government. His message was clear: humanity's manifest destiny among the stars was no longer a dream, but an inevitable reality. The speech outlined plans for massive expansion of human territory, with new colonies being established in systems that had been off-limits just months before. The alien governments that had previously controlled these territories were now offering them freely to humanity, hoping that cooperation would protect them from the fate that had befallen the Zephyrian Empire. Commodore Beth Collins oversaw the transformation of galactic trade routes from her command center on Mars. Beth was a skilled logistics officer with blonde hair and the organizational abilities that kept human commerce flowing smoothly across interstellar distances. Her reports showed that alien merchant fleets were abandoning profitable routes rather than risk encountering human warships. The economic implications were staggering as entire sectors of galactic commerce realigned themselves around human interests. Mining operations that had been controlled by alien corporations for centuries were being transferred to human companies. Trade agreements that had favored non-human species were being renegotiated with terms that heavily favored Earth and its colonies' fleet. Admiral Jennifer Walsh coordinated the deployment of human forces from her headquarters in the Sol system, and her strategic planning reflected the new reality of galactic politics. Jennifer was a stern woman with steel-gray hair and the tactical brilliance that had earned her command of the entire human fleet. Her decisions now shaped the destiny of hundreds of worlds. The deployment of human ships followed a careful pattern designed to maximize psychological impact while minimizing actual resource expenditure. Single human vessels were stationed in key systems throughout the galaxy, their presence serving as a constant reminder of humanity's power. The message was clear: Earth could project force anywhere in the galaxy at any time. Intelligence reports confirmed that several major alien governments were drafting formal surrender documents, preparing for the possibility that humanity might demand their complete submission. The speed with which the galaxy had accepted human dominance was unprecedented in recorded history, and it showed no signs of slowing. The Crystalline Collective, an ancient confederation of silicon-based life forms, offered to share their advanced manufacturing technology in exchange for human protection. The Ethereal Conclave, beings of pure energy who had considered themselves above physical concerns, sent ambassadors to Earth. For the first time in their existence, even the most distant alien civilizations were taking steps to avoid conflict with humanity. The Voidwalkers, mysterious entities from the galactic rim, transmitted messages of greeting and friendship across the vast emptiness of space. Species that had never interacted with human civilization were preemptively declaring their peaceful intentions. General Chris Adams began construction of humanity's first military base in the galactic core, a massive fortress that would serve as the symbol of human power throughout known space. Chris was a decorated veteran with dark hair and the engineering expertise that had made him the perfect choice to oversee the project. The base would house a fleet capable of projecting force across the entire galaxy. The construction proceeded with unprecedented speed as alien governments competed to provide materials and labor for the project. What had begun as a demonstration of human military capability had become a complete transformation of galactic civilization, with humanity at the center of a new order based on strength and fear. 6 months after the USS Dominion had demonstrated humanity's power above Kepler 442, the galaxy had become a fundamentally different place. The ancient order that had governed interstellar civilization for millennia had crumbled, replaced by a new system where humanity stood as the undisputed supreme power. The Galactic Council, once dominated by species with thousands of years of diplomatic experience, now waited respectfully for human representatives to speak before making any major decisions. General Chris Adams stood on the observation deck of Fortress Terra, humanity's first military installation in the galactic core. The massive structure had been completed in record time through a combination of human engineering expertise and alien labor provided by governments desperate to demonstrate their loyalty. Chris was a decorated veteran whose dark hair was now streaked with silver, and his weathered face showed the satisfaction of a man who had helped build something that would endure for centuries. The fortress housed a fleet of 30 human dreadnoughts, each one capable of projecting devastating force across thousands of light years. The alien governments that had once controlled the galactic core had voluntarily relocated their administrative centers to make room for the human installation. Understanding that resistance would bring only destruction, Trade Commissioner Lavra Baker managed the new economic arrangements from her office aboard the orbital station that surrounded the fortress. Lavra was a skilled negotiator with auburn hair and the business acumen that had made her the perfect choice to oversee humanity's expanding commercial empire. Her daily reports showed a galaxy that had completely restructured its economy around human interest. The transformation was staggering in its completeness. Alien merchants who had once demanded tribute from human colonies now competed fiercely for the privilege of serving human customers. Trade routes that had been closed to human ships for decades were now reserved exclusively for Earth-registered vessels. The rare minerals and exotic technologies that had once been jealously guarded by alien governments now flowed freely to human colonies. The Zephyrian Empire, once proud conquerors of dozens of star systems, had been reduced to a client state that existed solely to provide resources and labor for human expansion. Their former territories had been redistributed among species that had demonstrated friendship toward humanity, creating a new balance of power based entirely on loyalty to Earth. Ambassador Tony Clark reflected on the changes as he prepared for another session of the Galactic Council. Tony had spent years being ignored or dismissed by alien representatives, but now every species hung on his words with desperate attention. The transformation had been so complete that some of the older diplomats seemed to have trouble accepting the new reality. The psychological impact of humanity's demonstration continued to reverberate through galactic civilization. Species that had never shown fear were now paralyzed by the mere possibility of human displeasure. The concept of total warfare had been so foreign to their thinking that they had no framework for understanding or responding to it. Admiral Lisa Carter commanded the expanded human fleet from her flagship, the USS Dominion, as it patrolled the outer reaches of human space. Lisa's steel-gray hair was now completely white, but her eyes still held the sharp intelligence that had made her humanity's most successful military commander. Her presence anywhere in the galaxy was enough to send alien fleets fleeing in terror. The fleet under Lisa's command had grown to over 200 vessels, each one a testament to human engineering and determination. The ships patrolled trade routes, protected human colonies, and served as constant reminders of humanity's power. No alien government dared to challenge human interests when these vessels were present. Captain Derek Stone continued his patrols of the frontier regions, and his reports showed a galaxy that lived in constant fear of human reaction. Derek's dark hair was now showing gray at the temples, but his confidence had only grown stronger as he witnessed the complete transformation of galactic civilization. Alien ships that detected his vessel's energy signature would often transmit messages of friendship and submission before fleeing to safer systems. The speed with which the galaxy had accepted human dominance exceeded even the most optimistic projections from Earth Command. Species that have fought wars for centuries had laid down their arms rather than risk confrontation with humanity. Ancient rivalries had been forgotten as former enemies united in their fear of human displeasure. Dr. Susan Wright published her final report on the psychological transformation of galactic civilization, and her conclusions were startling. Susan had spent months analyzing the behavioral changes in alien species, and her research showed that humanity had fundamentally altered the way the galaxy thought about conflict and power. The galaxy had learned to think of humans as an unstoppable force of nature rather than just another species competing for resources. This perception had created a stable peace based on fear rather than mutual respect, but it was more effective than any diplomatic treaty in preventing large-scale conflicts. Admiral Jake Mitchell, now promoted to Supreme Commander of Human Forces, surveyed the star charts that showed human influence extending across thousands of light years. Jake's weathered face showed the satisfaction of a man who had helped humanity claim its rightful place among the stars. The species that had once dismissed humans as primitive mammals now spoke of them in whispered tones of awe and terror. The galaxy had learned a fundamental truth that would echo through the centuries when humanity decided to show its strength. The universe itself trembled. Earth's children had inherited the stars not through conquest, but through the simple demonstration that they would fight harder, think faster, and sacrifice more than any other species in the galaxy dared to imagine.